On August 15th, 1977, a radio telescope in Ohio recorded a signal that it stood out sharply from the background noise of the universe that it was monitoring. It lasted exactly 72 seconds. It appeared at a very specific frequency and then it was gone. No repeat, no follow-up detection, no clear explanation. What made the signal unusual wasn't what it suggested, but the problem that it left behind. Because the data was real, and yet it refused to resolve into an answer. Welcome to the evidence gap. So the signal was detected by what was called the Big Ear radio telescope at Ohio State University. Big Ear wasn't scanning the sky randomly. It was part of a systematic search for radio emissions, both natural and artificial. It used well-established principles of radio astronomy. The project focused on detecting narrowband signals, transmissions concentrated within a very small slice of the radio spectrum. So why narrowband? Well, it's because most natural cosmic sources produce broad, messy emissions. Narrowband signals, by contrast, are rare in nature, and it's therefore easier to distinguish from background noise. This wasn't fringe science at the time. It was careful observation using what was currently the accepted methods. Now, during routine data analysis, one printout stood out. The signal rose sharply above the expected noise floor. It peaked and then faded away, exactly as you'd expect from a distant source passing through the telescope's fixed field of view. And again, it lasted 72 seconds. The frequency was described as unusually precise, and its strength was difficult to ignore. Astronomer Jerry Eman, I hope I got his name right, Eman, he circled the data on the printout and wrote a single word beside it: "Wow!" exclamation mark. Not as his conclusion, not as a claim, just an expression of statistical surprise. So what made the signal noteworthy wasn't just its strength. It was a combination of characteristics. It appeared to come from a fixed point in space, not from Earth. It occupied a frequency band scientists had long considered meaningful for observation. And it didn't behave like known sources of interference. It wasn't broadband noise. It wasn't common astrophysical emission. It didn't match known satellite behavior at the time. So taken together, the signal didn't violate physics, but it also didn't fit neatly into existing categories. Now, after the signal was identified, researchers did what science always does next. They looked again. The same region of the sky was observed repeatedly for years. No recurrence was ever detected, never repeated. No secondary signals, no corroborating data from other instruments. The signal appeared once and never returned. And without repetition, science loses one of its most important tools. Over time, several explanations were considered, as normal. Natural astronomical sources were examined, but none matched the signal's profile convincingly. Terrestrial interference, earthly interference, was considered, but the signal's characteristics didn't align cleanly with known human-made sources. Instrumental or statistical anomalies were discussed, but the data itself showed no obvious malfunction. Each explanation resolved part of the problem, but none resolved all of it. The issue wasn't that answers were impossible. It was that every answer left something behind. This right there is where the gap appears. The signal was detected by legitimate equipment. It was recorded correctly. It behaved consistently with how distant sources move across the sky. And yet, it offered no opportunity for confirmation. Science depends on repeatability. Without it, certainty stalls. The gap isn't in belief, it's in interpretation. How do you evaluate a data point that is statistically unusual, but contextually isolated? You know what I mean? That question remains unanswered. Now, this isn't proof of extraterrestrial intelligence. It's not a debunked hoax either. And it's certainly not a mystery waiting for speculation to fill the void. It's an example of something, again, quieter and more uncomfortable. It's a case where science did everything correctly and still couldn't close the loop. The wow signal reminds us that uncertainty doesn't only live in ancient history or unexplored places. Sometimes it appears in clean data, recorded by careful instruments, analyzed by trained scientists. And sometimes, even then, the universe offers no follow-up, just a single observation and the space it leaves behind, leaving us in the evidence gap.